everyone, I wanted to share with you today some of my thoughts on ballet technique. So this isn't going to be a particularly strenuous class, it's going to be me talking through my ideas of ballet technique, helping you find really good technique when you're doing either a proper ballet class or the ballet barre stuff, which is really prominent in on the YouTube videos at the moment. So I'm going to give you some tips and things to think about and hopefully help you to be in the best alignment you can be and to switch on the right muscles, which is so key to getting the most out of your classes, whichever one that you're happen to be doing. So generally in these times we haven't got a ballet barre at home, maybe you have, and that would be amazing, but I quite like using the dining room chair because I can put it one side or the other. There's also a load of stuff that you can do sitting on it, which I also really like, but we're just going to start sitting on your chair today. So when we're doing a ballet barre class, when I'm teaching my ballet barre classes, of which I've got 5 up on my channel, if you wanted to go and look at those, we're going to cover most of the exercises I've done in those classes today. You need to have enough space to be swinging your legs, putting the chair from one side to the other. Make sure you're not on too slippy a floor. I like to just work in socks. I would probably be a bit too sticky in bare feet. So you don't want to be slippy, but you don't want to be too sticky either. It's finding that balance between not feeling like you're going to fall over and absolutely making sure your space is nice and clear. So let's just start by sitting on the chair. One of the main principles that I really try and think of when I'm teaching ballet and when I'm doing ballet for myself is this lovely tall posture and this length in the spine. So that's the first thing I wanted to concentrate on, and it's quite nice when you're sitting in a chair because you're not thinking about the muscles in your legs you're not worrying about the muscles in your legs. So just find your sort of sit bones either side of your spine, those bony prominences that should be sitting right upright on. Make sure your pelvis is in a good neutral, so your spine, you're not tucked under, you're not collapsed back, you're not overarched in that lower back. If you were lying on your back, pubic bone and hip bones would be on the same plane with each other. So sitting up really tall and then just trying to lengthen the crown of the head. I've just put my hair up, I've got this handy little top knot here to lift up towards the ceiling to get this lovely gap, or to exaggerate the gap between our rib cage and our hips, so that we've got this space that we can work in, and especially it frees up the hips when we're working in turnout. So just sitting up really nice and tall. Let's bring the feet and knees together. Take a little bit of a midline squeeze, so squeezing the knees together, thinking about the central line created by your spine, and maybe let your arms hang down by your side and try and lift the rib cage up off of the hips, all the way up. And then let's just take a couple of shoulder shrugs. So shoulders up towards your ears, shoulders drawn down. And as I'm sure you're well aware, your average ballet dancer, you will never see them slouch. They never collapse in their upper body. They have this wonderful, elegant neckline and lift in the upper body. And for our ballet, that's what we want to really try and create. We also want to be fluid there as well. So let's just draw the shoulders down and create this lovely length, and then maybe turn the head from side to side. So isolating, I'm actually just touching with my fingertips the front corners of my chair. I'm sitting quite forwards actually, that's another thing to think about. Quite forwards at the front edge of the seat so that I'm not tempted to collapse back. Turning from side to side, noticing that my hands aren't moving because my shoulders aren't moving. And then I'm going to come back to face forwards and take my ear towards my shoulder. And notice here whether your hands are sliding up and down the chair. You can actually hang on. It's not comfortable for me to hang on. If I hang on, I'm going to have to collapse down a little bit. So I'm happy with just touching the corners for the moment. So as you tilt, sides of the neck generally are quite tight, but also you'll be tempted just to let those shoulders go a little bit with you. Try and just keep the neck lengthened, and all of this heightens our awareness of how we're moving in our bodies, which is something that you really need to be aware of when you're doing something like ballet, because it's very particular, it's very precise. Yeah, great for the whole proprioception and your awareness of where your body is in space and also what it looks like. So let's just take a turn to the side, roll the chin down and lift up to the other side, and again, and then maybe up to the ceiling. There might be some clunking and clicking going on around the neck, it's absolutely fine. One more of those each side, and then finishing off. And as always, listening to your body. If you feel like doing a couple more of those, if you feel like doing a little bit of a shoulder roll, then absolutely please do. I'm just going to bring my notes a little bit closer to me. So, sitting at the front of the seat, as I said, if you weren't already, then please position yourself a little more forward. So let's look at ballet arms. So this is quite a difficult position to put your arms in, and quite uncomfortable, and this is a technique of how I've worked out how to get the right feel. So just from sitting up nice and tall, you're going to flex your hands at the side of your body, and then you're going to lift your arms up so that your arms are out to the side, and it's like you're trying to reach and push the sides of the room away with each hand. So you're lengthening the hands in the opposite directions, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, and you might feel it a bit nervy at your wrist by pulling those fingertips back. From here, and what I'd like to, in fact, let's do that a couple of times. So when you bring your arms down, let your hands relax. Pick your fingers up first, so flex those hands, and then slide away, and then lower. Do 2 or 3 more of those. Notice as you lift those arms up, and as you try and, when they get to the height of your shoulders, level with your shoulders, and you're trying to touch the sides of the room, see if you can notice any activation around the muscles in your back, particularly around your shoulder blades, and it's sort of around here. So that inside edge of your shoulder blades, if you like, and I feel like I'm drawing those muscles down and having them nice and flat against my back. So I'm not pinching my shoulder blades together, I'm trying to lengthen away but draw them down at the same time. And you might be able to see my lats just switching on a little bit there. Okay, so this time hold the arms up there, and now you're going to rotate your hands forward. So little finger is now going to be on top, but don't let your shoulders go with you. So don't let that back round forwards. So my shoulders are down, so let's come back to here. So this is thumbs facing forwards, little fingers at the back on the back wall. I'm going to tip and rotate, but not allow that rotation to come into my right up here into the shoulders. So it feels like, it feels like my elbow's here, that part of your elbows, not the outside of your elbows if you like, it's facing down to the floor here. When I rotate, my elbows are facing the wall behind me. Now I'm going to keep my elbows where they are, shoulders haven't moved anyway, so there's already this twist. This is rotating that way, this bit is rotating that way, it's all going on. We're going to take a third twist by releasing the wrists and just turning your palms to face forwards. So now you've got another twist going on at the wrist. There's my first rhyme of the evening. So we're nice and rounded, and then if we bring the arms forwards, actually if I take them up, you can see we've made this rounded shape. So take them up to the ceiling, and let's keep them in this position, and then open them out to the side. So basically they sort of stay in the same shape. Let's bring them down. So at the sides, actually when I brought them down, it's quite easy to let those elbows drop down and relax. I want them to be really rounded, and this is a little bit wide. I'm going to come forwards. So the width between your 2 middle fingers should be the width of your face. And bearing in mind, this is all my opinion. You might have been taught something completely different, but this is how I like to work. This is how I would correct people in class. So we're here. Width of the face between the 2 middle fingers up to the top. It stays the same. So this channel. So if we were standing, this is called bra bar. So my little fingers are just touching the middle of my thighs. We come forwards, opposite the belly button generally, because you don't want your hands covering your face. You would never be there. And bearing in mind, if you're a professional ballet dancer, the audience are lower than you, so almost even lower. So opposite the belly button for that position. And then, or you're up to the ceiling. Now, let's talk about thumbs. So, in fact, let's relax and just reset that again. Okay, so shoulders up and down and back, and sitting really nice and tall. Get that lift rib cage off of the hips. So we're flexing the hands at the side of the body. We're lifting up. So my elbows are sort of facing down to the floor. I'm going to rotate the arms. So my elbows are facing the back wall behind me, and I'm going to take even more time to draw those shoulders down. I'm going to keep the elbows facing the back wall, release at the wrist, turn the palms. Great. And then bring the arms forwards and then take them up. Fantastic. So let's have a little look at hands now. So open out to second. So this is second position. Quite often what I see is this. So unless you need a lift home, this is my classic joke in my classes, you need a lift home, you're going to hitch a lift home, lose those thumbs. So let's just relax the arms a moment actually. So, too straight, not good. Hand is completely flat. Bent at the wrist is not good either. All fingers glued together, not good. Thumb sticking out of the side, obviously not good, or thumb sticking up if you were here. This is just my straight arm without it being rounded. So some people would like to talk about holding an egg between your middle finger and your thumb, but it's a quail's egg. It's not a huge, great big egg. I find that a little bit spiky. That's too spiky for me, unless you're doing the old shadow thing. But it's like that, but just slightly relaxed. So, flex the hands, lift up, elbows face the back, turn the wrists, lose the thumbs, just relax them down, slightly take a quail's egg between your middle finger and your thumb, and then lifting up, should be here, it's a really nice frame. Yeah, lovely. And then so if you're opening out to the side, when you're opening out to the side, the elbows facing the back still. This is the hardest position, to hold the arm out of the side, especially when we're at the bar. It's quite, I can already start to feel it on my shoulders. But when you are lowering the arms from second, for instance, you can relax from that really rounded position and just let the elbows drop and then the wrists follow. Or you might do this sort of thing. So let's just take this arm. So we're leading with the back of the hand and sort of the elbow, and then as that one comes down, lift the other one up. So again, we've got that rotation and those three twists, but just on a slightly different plane. And then so there are movements where you might have, so this will be an open fifth. So again, I'm just letting that middle finger just drop down a little bit, trying not to be too spiky with my fingers, not allowing the wrist to droop unless that's specifically required in the choreography. Or yeah, you could be there, nice and rounded. So play about with it. You want your hands and fingers and wrists and everything to be malleable, not too fixed, but not too spiky. So that's your port de bras. So the carriage of your arms is a port de bras. So anything where you're doing maybe a great big circular movement, flowing the arms round, that would be a big circular port de bras. Carriage of the arms, all of that, just moving the arms around on their own is called the port de bras. Great, we looked at the hands. Let's have a little look at feet before we stand up. So just again, sitting on the chair just helps, I think. So I would like you to just take hold of one foot and just massage it. So just, I've kept my socks on because my feet were a bit sweaty before, Well, actually, no, I'm wanting to work in socks anyway, but you could be in bare feet, it's absolutely fine. I'm taking hold of each toe and pulling it about and digging my thumbs and properly massaging the underneath of my foot. Feet take a really, it's very strong work. Ballet work is very strong on the feet. My feet are very strong, but every now and again, you know, something feels like it's a little bit injured or just a little bit sore, and that you've got all these muscles and bones and tendons in your feet, and it's, yeah, like I say, it's very important to have strong and flexible feet and for them to be able to cope. So get that nice and warm, get your ankle bending over, bend your toes back, circle the ankle both ways, and then swap to the other side. So what's quite a nice thing to do, and I can't actually do it with my socks on today, but to put a finger in between each toe and sort of bend them over, that actually feels really nice. But this for me is really lovely as well. And if you can get your partner to massage your feet at the end of the day, even better. So using my thumbs quite strongly, and I'm also using my fingers on the top part of my foot. Don't forget the top part of your foot. So just waking up all the muscles, the nerve endings, getting some blood flow there so that you can really use those feet and rely on them for your alignment and everything. It's so, so important. Okay, so let's just take a little exercise called caterpillars. I'm going to go slightly to the side actually so that you can see. We're going to, in fact, we're going to lift the toes first and then scrunch the toes under. Lift the toes and scrunch the toes. Lift and scrunch. And this ability to move your toes separately from the rest of your foot is really key to the strength of your feet. Good, and then we're going to scrunch the toes under and scoot your foot along the floor. Lift the toes, scrunch the toes and scoot. And so you're lengthening the legs away, and then we're reversing to come back. Scrunching the toes under, digging them in, releasing the heels, and then there. I call this the caterpillars. So just be comfortable on your chair, and then again. And it really wakes up the underneath of your feet. It should feel quite nice. If you can see me that well. There, that's better. Great, let's have one last look at, so I've got another video on here called feet, leg alignment and feet strengthening, I think, where I do some really good exercises for this. But this is the same sort of principle, just lifting the heel of one foot up and then pointing your toe down, putting the ball of the foot down and then putting the heel down, swapping to the other side. So lift the heel up, point the toe, ball of the foot down. In fact, I'm going to go this way again. So these socks I've got quite, hopefully, nice and easy to see. So I'm lifting, so I'm really lift right up onto my demi point, if that's called, and then I'm going to just pop the toes down to the floor. Put the toes back in and then heel down, other side. Lift the heel, pop the toes, toes in, heel down. Just swap from one side to the other. Great. Yeah, so lovely. So thinking about, so everything we've done so far with the legs and the feet, we're in parallel. So that means that our legs, our knees are in line with the hips, shins in line with the knees are falling between the second and the third toe, absolutely dead parallel. But when we're doing our ballet, we're in turnout. It's exactly the same thing. And here's the other thing that I want to think about. When we're working in parallel and we're maybe pointing the feet, this line continues to be really nice and straight. So what sometimes happens is we get this, I call it a curly foot. It's also called a sickle foot, and it gives you cramp in your instep if you're not careful. So you can see that lovely straight line down the side of my sock. You don't want to curl it round. All of this is in line. So just lifting up. So I didn't say earlier, but actually, if you can work in front of a mirror, even better with this work. So really nice and straight here. Curl it round. Know what that feels like. Know what it looks like. It's not pretty. It's not good. You might be able to go a little bit the other way. It doesn't go very far, and I think that's called winging. It doesn't really work that well for me because I'm not that flexible in any direction. But yeah, I can just twist that slightly the other way. Again, we want strong, good alignment. It's good to be able to find both those positions, know where they are, but equally be aware that we don't necessarily need those. Okay, great. Let's stand up. Okay, let's stand up and just get the chair out of the way for the moment. So coming into your parallel position, looking down at those feet. So feet are hip width apart, big toes on the same line, insteps nice and straight. We've got that lovely length in the spine. So we're lifting the crown of the head up, we're sending the tailbone down. And I just want you to explore putting your weight forwards and backwards a little bit. So legs are really straight. So pitch the weight forwards onto the balls of the feet and then back onto the heels. And then pitch the weight forwards onto the balls of the feet so much so that you can rise up all the way. Now this is getting into the arena of the other video that I've talked about, the leg alignment and feet strengthening. But just to be aware, and then lowering, placing your heels down, but with control rather than just landing or falling out of it. So notice that you have to take your plumb line slightly forwards so that your weight is forward. So from the side, and actually you could try this bringing your feet completely together as well. So your plumb line is really up through this centre, and then you're taking the weight forward, so you're taking the crown of your head, the middle of your head, over the balls of your feet in order to rise up, and you're completely balanced there, and you've got this lovely length in the spine, and then you're lowering with control, and ideally that weight falls between the middle of both feet from one side to the other. Let's come back to a parallel position again. I just want to explore, I'm going to go slightly at an angle, the difference between a roll down with the spine, so I quite like to do this as a warm-up before my classes, and pitching forwards with a flat back, and see how that feels, because we use both in ballet. So legs are nice and parallel. I'm just slightly onto the corner. Get that rib cage lifted off of the spine. Keep the legs straight, keep the legs parallel. Take the chin down onto the chest and allow your back, your shoulders to round forwards. Try and keep that weight in the middle of your feet. Unravel your spine all the way down to the floor. Just nod your head when you're there. So your knees can be slightly soft, and if you want to, just soften the knees more and then straighten the legs, just getting a stretch on the hamstrings. And then soft knees to roll up through the spine. Push that pubic bone forwards and unravel the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, until you come up to that lovely tall posture again. Let's take one more of those. This time see if you can keep the legs straight all the way through. Watch as you go forwards that your weight doesn't go all the way back into your heels. Hang from your waist, keep those legs straight, bend and straighten the knees a couple of times if you want to, just to get a bit more of a hamstring stretch. Now keep the legs straight this time as you roll up. Strongly tuck that pelvis under, unraveling the spine. Wonderful. This is going to be really feeling quite different. We're going to hinge forwards from the hips. So this is a flat back forwards. We use this, or a forward bend. We use this in our plies at the beginning of class. Go as far as you can. It's a very strong stretch on the backs of the legs. Relax your head and upper body down, and then lead back up in the same way. Come up the reverse reverse direction like you're rewinding the video. Lead with your head, come into that lovely flat back, and then open out the angle at the hips. One more of those. Hinge forwards, lengthen through the crown of your head. Keep your chin tucked in. Let your back unravel. Keep the legs straight if you can. You can bend the knees if you need to. In order to be able to perform most of the stuff that you're going to be required to do in the ballet class, you need a certain level of flexibility. Pretty much a bare minimum is fingertips to the floors in this straight leg position. Maybe the feet could be a little bit wider, but that's something you want to be really working towards. Okay, perfect. So, ballet technique, turnout. Yes, it's the thing that differentiates it from most other things. So what I'd like you to do is come back to your parallel position, pitch your weight forwards onto the balls of the feet so that you can just tap both heels. And then you're going to have your heels slightly off the floor. You're going to squeeze your legs together by turning them out in the hip socket and then lower the heels. And then reverse it. Lift the heels up, come back to parallel and lower down. Now I'm going to go a tiny bit wider than I was for hip width apart because I want the natural turnout. I've got quite good turnout, I can hold quite good turnout in the hip socket. If my legs are too close together in parallel, I'm not really going to be in a turned out position. So we're there, the heels are together. As I look down, my legs are equally turned out. That's really important. You won't be perfectly symmetrical in life, but we want to always try and work for it. So heels together, squeeze the legs together. Now let's think about that rib cage lifting off. Do this a couple more times for me. So the rib cage lifting off the hips, which essentially will create some space in the hip joints for you to be able to turn the thigh bone out within that ball and socket joint, which is the hips. So heels are together if you can. If not, lower legs together. It doesn't matter, but make sure it's come from here and make sure you've turned the whole leg out, as opposed to what tends to happen is we're off to our ballet class. We're going to get to the bar and first thing we do is pin those ankles back, pin those toes back. So I've now gone into completely flat turnout. Well, not quite completely flat, but that makes my ankle roll in, and that is really not good because that's my natural, I can't take that amount of turnout all the way up here. So this is the way to find your natural turnout, or to turn the leg out properly. So now, once you're in this amount of natural turnout, and you're turned out in the hip socket where you should be, and you're not straining the ankles or the knees, then you want to try and keep the heels together as you lift and lower those heels up. Not all the way into a big full rise or a demi point. I'm actively trying to keep my heels together, squeezing the inside thighs together. I sometimes I talk about the tops of your thighs being like a roller. You know, in the printer, when you're feeding the paper through and you've got the roller that lets it feed through, it's like you're feeding a piece of paper from the back to the front, and your thighs are rolling in the opposite direction to each other, and you're holding that there. And the muscles that you can feel when you do this rise and lower are your turnout muscles. Really, really important. So you might be feeling a switching on at the gluteal fold, the crease of your bottom. You might feel some activation, and hopefully you will, inside thighs. Pelvic floor will be activated. This is really strong work, but this is what we're trying to do all the time in our ballet positions. Yeah, great. So we're in first position now. So let's just release that a moment. So let's look at the position when you're using the bar, when you're using a chair for the bar. So we are, oh, I know what I want to do. Just before we do that, just before you take any hold of the bar, just have it nearby, but come back to your parallel position, come into first position, just take the roll down again, the two different types of roll down, and just notice how different that feels when the legs are turned out. So keep those legs turned out, keep the ribcage lifted off of the hips. Chin down onto the chest, rolling down through the spine, let those arms hang all the way down. Just keep those legs straight if you can, and then we're rolling back up. Leave the arms to hang, trying to get the pelvis back over the hips as soon as possible. This time take a forwards bend, so the legs are staying in turnout, you're arching that back, you're hinging from your hips. Flat back all the way down, the head hangs last, and then you lead with the head to come up with a nice flat back. Brilliant. Let's maybe take the arms up, so we're up. This is fifth position with the arms, or couron as my style of ballet used to call it. We're opening out to second as we pitch forwards, relaxing the head down, bringing the arms above the head. This makes it quite significantly more difficult. Flattening that back out with the arms above the head all the way to the top to your perfect position. Open out to second, lose the thumbs, elbows are on top, and then lowering down to a nice bra bar. Great, okay, good. Now we want to be at the bar. So the bar could be anything. It could be a wall, it could be a window's ledge, it could be a kitchen worktop. Doesn't really matter. It's there as a support. And the other thing that we tend to do, so I've put my chair on this side, and you're probably, the easiest thing if you're doing a class with someone is just to mirror them, especially if you're doing a dance class. Not to worry about rights and lefts, but your brain will happily just mirror someone. You wouldn't necessarily naturally do the opposite. But when we're in a ballet class, and this is something that's really quite important, especially with my ballet bar classes, so I'm going to teach you the exercise, I'm going to show you the exercise, and we're going to mark it through standing on one leg. So you're going to be on one leg, and then we're going to do it with the music, and then we're going to put the bar on the other side and do it on the other side. Basically, you've done it twice on your first side. Naturally, you will default to stand on your strongest leg. So for me, my strongest leg would be my left leg. So I would naturally stand at the bar. Quite happily, if I wasn't thinking about it, I'd go and stand there. But I want you to think about that. Think about which is your weaker leg and which is your stronger leg. It usually goes in with your handedness. And start with the bar so that you're standing on your weaker leg, so that you basically do almost two sets on the weaker leg, and that way we address our imbalances in our body. So coming to the bar, so I've just sort of placed my feet, but I know from that previous exercise that we've done where my turnout is. I know I'm not forcing anything, and I'm very aware of the correct position. Your bar or whatever you're using needs to be here as a bit of support, maybe with your hands slightly in front of you. Definitely not too far behind or anywhere that's going to make you twist or distort your position. So we've got the 5 positions of the feet. So let's have a little look at each position. In fact, let's take some plies. So plies to bend. So I'm just going to pop I'm going to take my other arm out to the side. I'm just thinking about how much we're going to do on this side. I'll try and swap over halfway through. So with that arm out to the side, so generally it would come forwards, opening out, the elbows on top, you've lost the thumb. There's a slight slope in the arm from your shoulder to your hand. So not with the arm up here. Not too low either, that's not nice. So we're here. So first position, demi-plie. A demi-plie in first, the heels stay on the floor. You're bending your knees as much as you personally can, and I'm having a little bounce because I've got really rubbish Achilles, and so this is quite, it's not difficult, but this is as far as I can go. You might be able to go much lower than me, but those heels must stay on the floor. Most importantly as well, knees are going over the toes. Most importantly, Another really important thing, nothing has changed in my upper body posture. I'm just bending the knees and straightening the legs. If I was to go completely sideways, it's not pretty. It's straight, square on isn't pretty, and completely to the side isn't pretty either. So that's why we tend to like to be at a bit of an angle, because we actually look more turned out than we naturally are. But basically what I'm asking you for you to think about is that wherever your foot is, your knees going over those second and third toes, and that's also in line with your hip. There's no distortion, there's no ankle rolling in, no knee rolling in, none of that going on one way or the other. So, arm out to second, hand just lightly resting on the bar, hips and shoulders square. So demi-plie, fully straighten. Take a rise, this is a full, up onto demi-point this is called, a full rise all the way up, always testing your balance just at any stage. You should be able to lift that other arm up and be nice and controlled there. Lowering the heels, as you lower the heels, push them forwards. Bending the knees for our full plie. This time the heels come off, just naturally. Now you don't want to collapse all the way down. This is just me come down into a full squat and let everything collapse. And those legs will want to roll in. I'm pushing my knees back. You sort of want to get to the point where just the middle of the thigh brushes the calf, and then we're coming back up. Heels down, you come through your demi-plie to straighten. I'm going to take and the arm generally goes out with you, or down with you. So full plie, all the way down, through your demi-plies here. No collapsing, keep that back up. Push the heels down and opening out. Great, that's first position. Let's put the chair on the other side, just so that we keep swapping from side to side today. So from first position at the bar, you would extend this leg out to the side to come into second position. But if you go there, I haven't got very long legs, bless me, but if I go there and then I put my heel down, that's not wide enough, because when I go into my second position, my knees are past my toes, and I actually want them more here. You're ideally, for second position, so the difference between second position and first position, or all the other positions actually, for the full plie, is that in second position your heels stay down. But for your full plie, you're aiming to get those thighs parallel to the floor, the knees above the ankles. I'm still a tiny bit in with my heels, so we're there. And then when you take your demi-plie or half plie, it's just halfway down. Otherwise, so it looks pretty much the same. But there's that shift. So you extend from first to second, and then you just slide out a little bit more. You want your heels on the same line. Same rules apply. Pulling up the leggings is needed. Knees go over the toes. Your spine is in the centre, nothing has changed. You're equally bending both knees. It's always a little bit ooh, a little bit ah when you first do it. So that's your second position. And then rising up onto demi-point, coming into a nice balance there, shoulders down, elbows up, wrist turn, thumbs away, maybe lifting those arms up. You could keep those heels up, you could come into a nice plie there, that's quite strong on the balance. Maybe push those heels down and coming up. There's a huge variety of things we could do from there. Okay, so come back onto my working leg, standing leg, working leg. Standing leg is generally at the bar, as supporting leg, or supporting leg, working leg, or supporting leg, moving leg. This is the one that's going to do most of the movement, not always, but generally. So from there, sweep the leg round, and this, so we're coming into fourth position. There are two fourth positions. So if I come to here, and then I put my heels down, so I'm in turnout, and you can see, because I'm nicely square onto the camera, my heels are in line. This is fourth open. The problem with this is it's really quite difficult to keep the hips and the shoulders square. not so much the shoulders, but definitely the hips. So you want to be absolutely square, and then same thing again, and also you want to be equally weighted. I can feel that I'm back on my back foot. You want your weight absolutely in the middle. So bend both knees, straighten both legs. There's your demi-plie. Bend and straighten. And again, I've got rubbish Achilles, so it looks really quite uncomfortable, and it is. Let's go up into a rise and maybe bring the arms round. So hips and shoulders really square, legs are turned out. This is a difficult one, the most difficult one. In fact, I'm going to put my hand on my hip today. So knees are going over the toes, hips are square. I'm bending both knees equally, my spine is in the middle. As I go down to the full plie, the heels lift off. I'm just going to kiss those middle of my thigh to my calf, push down through the heels, again equally weighted, and opening out. From here, just take a little upper body circular port de bras. So here's something else we haven't talked about yet. The port de bras generally at the bar. So pointing that foot, this time, in fact, let's take it round to the back. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Sweep it round to the back, that's called a rond de jambe. Now this time I'm going to hide that, so the last, if I was going to go into fourth open at the back, I would leave that leg out a little bit and then put my heel down. So my heels are now on the straight line. That's fourth open, so it's slightly open. We're going to go into fourth crossed. So I can see that leg in the monitor. I'm going to cross it behind me and then place it down. So now heel and toe, toe and heel are in line. This is even harder to keep the hips square, even harder to stay in the centre. Don't you just love ballet? And this is actually really uncomfortable for me, but I'm going to go with it. So this is my demi-plie, believe it or not. It's really tough on that back leg. Straightening both legs. I'm going to go up into a rise. Take a different line with the arms this time. So this is quite a straight line with the arms. It's an arabesque position. Lower those heels. Getting ready for a full plie. Demi-plie. My back heel's pinged off already. Trying to stay in the middle. Trying to keep those knees out over the toes. Push those heels down and straighten. Point that back foot. Circle it round to the front. This time closing into fifth. So actually there is a third. You may have noticed we missed off third. So third position. So we've got first, second. Third position is between, is not quite as crossed over as fifth. So a bit like a fourth open, if you like. So your third position, and we tend to use third position if you're not that experienced with your technique, or you haven't got much turnout, or you're just not feeling it, or you're just more comfortable there, because it's not the most comfortable of things. So it's just the heel in the middle of the instep of the other foot, as opposed to fifth position, which is the heel on the big toe joint. I think some people might go all the way across, but I would go big toe joint, bunion point, that rhymes, all the way across. So, and again, this is much harder. So if we come back to here, come back to your first position. So my feet aren't completely flat. I've got reasonable turnout, I can hold that there, but that amount of turnout from first will stay the same in each position. Opening out to second, coming into third, fourth open, fourth crossed, same with fifth. So it's not that you've got your feet completely flat together, and don't try and work for that unless you are a professional, in which case you wouldn't be watching this video. Great, okay, conscious of the time. Doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? Okay, I'm going to turn out plies, first to fifth positions. Okay, I think let's come back to putting the bar on the other side. I'm going to finish off with some tendu and glisse. So tendu, I think the French for tendu is stretch. Glisse, it's to glide, I think, or similar. The difference between a tendu and a glisse, so they come from a closed foot position and you generally keep your legs straight, and you slide the foot along the floor. So I'm going from first, and go through those toes to pop the toes on the end. Your tendu stays on the floor, and then you come back to first position. So let's just do that. So let's do that. So here's another ballet term, a couple more things I want to explain. So staying on the floor is called terre. If it comes into the air or off the floor, it's called en l'air. We're going to work, generally we work, not always, but quite often we will work with the bar on this side. We're going to work in the form of a cross, which is called en croix, which basically means that you take the exercise, or the leg, you take the working leg, the moving leg, forwards, centre, side, centre, back, centre, side, centre. So your standing leg, your supporting leg doesn't get involved in this at all. Quite often we will use the standing, that leg on the, it's called the inside leg when it's closest to the bar, just to give the other one a bit of a break, and that's quite nice to do, and quite often I'll do that in my classes. Let's just take a tendu en croix, so we're going to go devant, in front, à la seconde, derrière to the back and à la seconde, or front side, back side. We skip between the French and the proper ballet terms and the English. Let's just do that. Let's do 2 rounds. We're going to do it once, keeping the legs straight all the way through. We're going to do it a second time, closing on a plie. So then when we extend out again, we're going to straighten the legs. So from here, so the arm comes forwards and out to second. That's your preparation. Make sure you're not relying too much on the bar. So we've got to the front and pull back, and to the side and pull back to the back. And I'm really trying to use the floor, and I'm actually rucking my carpet up, my rug up, as I'm going all the way out and all the way back in. I don't know whether you can see that. And so then we're going to go again. So we're going forwards with a straight leg and a plie to come back, ideally equally weighted on both legs. To second and plie, and to the back and plie, and to the side and plie. And you can see there's that slight adjustment. Your centre of gravity goes from there to being just over a tiny bit. So when you're on one leg, your centre of gravity, your plumb line, is sort of in the middle of this foot. When you're equally weighted on both feet, it's between those feet at those heels. So there's always that slight shift from side to side. Let's move that to your bar to the other side. Let's do the same again. This time we're going to take it glisse, so on there, the leg is going to come off of the floor. What's really important with this is as you slide along, so I don't know whether you can see, but I'm keeping my toes are actually still in contact. And there's that pop of the toes. And then as I come back, I'm releasing the toes, and then I'm sliding the leg back in, especially out to second, you can really see it. So try and go as far as you can without popping the toes. I haven't shifted the weight over, and then there's that little extra bit, and this time we're going to be lifting off the floor just slightly as well, and then coming back in. Get your heel down, but don't sink, don't let that collapse at all. Slide and really feel the inside thighs switching on again. So arm is in second. So all these are going to be, so one set straight legs, the second set finishing on a plie. All these are coming off the floor. So we're swishing and closing to second, and swishing and closing. Working that turn out all the way through, keeping the rib cage off of the hips. One more set, forwards and plie, and extend, and plie, and extend, and plie, extend, and plie, and straighten and release. Well done. I think I'm going to leave that there today. Let me just think if there's anything else I want to talk to you about those things that we've done so far. Looking at the bar position, Tendu Glisse. Yeah, in fact, let's do one more exercise. Sorry. So we're going to come back, put the bar to the other side. Let's keep this arm in second. We're going to take the leg forwards and keep it on l'air, in the air, so a glisse. We're going to flex the foot. We're going to bring it to parallel, just this leg on its own, moving in this hip. We're going to turn it out, point and close, and then take the same leg out to second. So we're out to second. Flexing, as you flex, go through the toes. Keep your hip absolutely still. In fact, put your hand on your hip if you want to. So this is really weird. This leg is in turn out, this leg is rotated in that hip socket. Your hips are staying still. Turn it out again. When you turn it out, especially in second, you want to try and push the heel forwards. You want to think of this inside edge of your knee. Pointing the foot, closing. So keep this hand on the hip to make sure that it doesn't move. Take it to the back. It's on there. You're flexing. Turn the leg to parallel without moving that hip. Lifting the rib cage off of the hips. Turn out again. Point the foot and come back to first. One more to second. Out. Flex. Go through those toes. Parallel, so that's knee and foot facing forwards, turn out again, woo, point and lower. Let's do one more thing here. Lift this leg up into retire. So both legs are turned out. This position is called retire. This foot is beautifully pointed. The big toe is next to that, it's in that little dent just by the edge of your knee. Transfer your weight, whoop, over onto the ball of that foot and try and balance. You could keep the heel down if you wanted to, but here's your challenge for today if you can. So I'm here, I'm going to rise up, holding that there. Balance, 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 balance. Woo! Best way to get better at balance is to balance and practice it. Make sure those hips are nice and level. It's tough. Good. All of that on the other side. Last thing. Here we go. Legs in first. Let's keep this hand on the hip. So all the way forwards and in the air. Flex. Go through those toes. This is turned out. Bring it to parallel. Turn it out. Point. Go through those toes last and back to first. All the way to second. Toes, heel. Turn the leg. That's weird. Turn the leg out. Heels, toes. Point and close. That rhymes again. To the back. Flexing. Parallel. Make sure this hip stays still. Turning out. So there's a very slight pitch forwards here. Otherwise your lower back will feel uncomfortable. Pointing that foot, coming back in. Notice these legs are straight all the way through. Last one. Pull the toes, flex the foot, parallel, turn out, unravel the toes, lower, draw the leg up to retire. So maybe just get used to this position. So absolutely no hitching here. Turn the legs out. Holding that there. So in order to get up onto my demi point, onto my rise, I'm going to use the, whoops, the calf is cramping now. It's all going on. Whoa, and always one side not so good as the other. Lower those heels. Back to first. And then from second, relaxing the elbows down. Woo! Great job. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a calf stretch. I suggest you do the same. I'm going to go to the wall here actually. So leaning forwards, let's get my chair out of the way so that you can see. Taking one leg back, hips are forwards, getting a good old stretch on those calves. A nice straight line from the crown of the head through the hips to that heel, swap legs If your bottom's back here, you won't be feeling anything. Drive those hips forwards. Oops, rocking up the carpet again. And then maybe just have a little circle, almost like a massage of your foot into the floor. That was quite intense, and you can see how when we're in our ballet class, you can quickly forget about all of these bits and pieces of technique. Pushing the ball of the foot into the floor. Now I'm going to just use the top of my chair, sending my hips back, feet are hip width apart, nice flat back, pushing my chest down towards the floor, just opening up the front of the chest. I'm just going to take a slightly mad sway from side to side. So I'm just taking my ear to the inside of my arm, and then I'm going to tuck the pelvis under, take a little ripple through, relax down, and again tuck the pelvis under, ripple through, relax down, holding that there, bending those knees, walking the feet in a little bit, one more, unravel, shoulder rolls, and well done. Thank you so much. Ballet Technique, watch out for some more, and hopefully that will help you either with my ballet classes. If you're joining me, that would be amazing, but any ballet bar, ballet classes, full stop, hopefully those things have been helpful. Great, thank you for joining me.